House. I hope you're all having a great day today. I know I am. I love having great days. I'm sure you do too. This is just going to be about politics in general. This is not to be meant left or right. This is just what is out there. So don't get offended if you don't agree with me, which is fine because I probably don't 100% agree with you either. But here's the thing, what I'm trying to get at here. Let's take what happened to the president by a former FBI director. What he did was nothing but stupid. And yes, it was stupid. Because two things, if I believe he did it. I believe he is one that put that message in the sand. I could be wrong, and it's just my opinion. It was definitely him. See, here's what he should have done, and I 100% disagree with that. That's just, and I don't care if you're left, right, or in the center. It is wrong. We have one president at a time, regardless of whether we voted for him or not, and he should be recognized as the president. I wasn't all that fond of Joe Biden, but I did recognize him as president because he was the president, as Trump is the president now. Has nothing to do with how I voted. It has to do with what is. But as far as the former FBI director goes, if he did do that, and he knew what it meant, he's trying to tell the whole world that you're all stupid and he's smarter than you. And that's what he is doing. And he don't care if you're left or right or in the middle. When you try to defend him, you still have to remember that. But here's what he did wrong. If you were going to do that, to me, he should be in jail. Whether there was a law broken will have to be decided by certain people. But if you were going to do that, you would have, and if it wasn't you, would you not call the FBI because you know what 47 standard stood for? And get the police on the scene? Because that would be a threat to the president. But he knew what 86 meant. He's not that stupid. So even if he did it, maybe he should have went out and said, look what I found, and turned it over. That would be wrong, but that would have made more sense than his excuse he used. That's just one example. And like I said, I'm not standing up for any one president. I'm just looking at what is now. And just so you guys know, I have voted for Democrats, and I definitely have went in and voted for independents. So could you call me a mega Republican? No, because I'm going to vote for who I want. We have a guy in my state that is a Republican, and he would be the last guy I'd vote for. I like getting people in there that are more knowledgeable. Where the Democrats made a big mistake was putting Joe Biden out there knowing he had problems. And I'm personally offended by that because it hits home. My wife has a start of Alzheimer's. She isn't really bad now, but progressively have gotten worse. So when something like that happens, it personally offended me that people would defend him and not tell him to step aside. And it was pathetic. It really is. The greed, in my opinion, the greed set in, And it was more important to have him in office than what his problem was. And believe me, it offended me immensely when that happened, because it was personal. You could like the guy, but you didn't. But you have to realize there was something wrong there. And that's the difference. You can like somebody, but you don't need to vote for him. I mean, in anything. I've seen councilmen around here. I did not mind. Even the current mayor, I did not mind as far as a person goes, because everybody says this person is nice or this person is nice. Doesn't mean they should be in charge. And we should look at it that way, not as left or right. We have to look at what is going on and why. We have a tendency to pick sides, and when something happens, we blindly don't realize it because it's our guy. And that's sad in a lot of ways. I mean, we either lean left or right. I'd probably lean to the right, but I'm not on either edge, because it's like driving the car down the road when you're on the edge. You get over on the edge, and all of a sudden you go off, and it's hard to correct, and you can crash because you went off the road, whether it's left or right. Think about that we don't want to crash. We want our country to be the best it can be at all times, no exception. I have never seen a president do things 100% right. No president. It's a shame we have to think that this is something that, well, I was going to say something else, but I'm going to get to the point here. It's a shame when we see something wrong, we can't call it out, regardless of who it is or what it is. That's like the next time around, I would like to see somebody a little younger. Not really young, but younger than what we got. Because that's the problem as far as remembering things. And I don't care if you like the guy or not, the burden on a president is immense. So when you get older, this comes from somebody that's 66 years old. When you get older, it would be hard on you. Trump has, whatever reason, come out on top of this age thing. Most people couldn't do that. Joe Biden needed help, or he couldn't have got through it. I ain't saying Trump don't, but we don't know that. Joe Biden, we knew that. He couldn't even remember things he signed. And as far as executive orders go, any executive order that is signed is only a temporary thing until the next president gets in there, because all they got to do is sign it away and it goes back. The only one that can make it a permanent law is the House and the Senate. Whether you like the executive orders or not, that's how it works. And like I said, this isn't somebody that's left or right, or looking at this left or right. And like I said, we all lean one way or other. But nobody can tell me, like Bernie Sanders, anybody that thinks he's not a socialist needs to go do some research and research what socialism is. Look at the communist people or leaders. They will tell you the first step is socialism to communism. You can deny it, you can stick your head in the sand, but it's there. Just do some research on it. Not a socialist research. Look at what the communist leader says about socialism. and how it worked for them and works for them. Whether you like Russia or not, for example, uh, there is no constitution. It's run by one guy, and its minions go out and do whatever they are told, because not all of them are men. And that's a socialism into communism. He hasn't gone full communist. He has in the past when he was the intelligent guy for Russia. And here's another thing in politics. We have a tendency as a government to take sides, and we're taking sides either Russia or Ukraine. And I don't think there should have been a war. Don't get me wrong. Should never have ever have happened. But seeing it did happen, we're looking at two people that are two countries that are not exactly good countries overall. You can say one's better than the other, but still, neither one of them can be trusted. And our president and people in the government have to realize that and work with that. I do think Trump's trying to do that. I'm not saying he'll accomplish what he wants, but at least he's putting the effort out in doing that. And that should be commended by either side, not criticized. And sometimes Congress, I don't care if it's left or right, have a tendency the other side they have to hate. Example of that is that little boy that had cancer. All the Republicans were up clapping and cheering him on, which should have been. And Democrats had no guts whatsoever and sat down and wouldn't even clap for that child. No, I don't believe in exploiting a kid, but here was an example of how people are fighting cancer, and that was the most important thing. I would have really been upset if it was just a political stunt, but it wasn't. It showed what this child had been through. And, people go through stuff like that, left and right, and it should be applauded when somebody overcomes something or fighting for something. The Congress did not do that. This is what I'm getting at. I'm jumping all over, but this was about politics. And it's amazing what people will do for their side. And like I said, I do lean to the right more than the left, but I'm not on the ends of either side. We need to look at an overall picture. Let's take example that last week, the protest at the prison, I call it a prison in New Jersey. Them politicians that went there for a political stunt and only a political stunt, regardless of what side you're on, you have to see that. When that one congresswoman pushed the police officer, if you would have went out and did the exact same thing, you would have been arrested for assault. For whatever reason, I guess they're above the law. Even though they were the ones that was complaining that nobody is above the law, or stating it, that nobody is above the law, then when it was turned on them, they're an exception to the law. This is part of the reason political things have gotten so far out of hand. Nobody can compromise or work on anything. And things like in the bill that didn't get passed, who knows by tomorrow what'll happen. But let's just For example, look at what people are saying. And whether it's true or not, I had a waitress tell me that the tax on tips stated all cash tips would be exempt. You know how many use credit card? Is that what they was getting at? Is still using, if it was on the credit card, you had to pay taxes on it. If they give you cash, you didn't have to. That may not be what the intent is, but that's how it come out. And I'm not saying that was the final bill, but that is something that they were doing. Then another thing they wanted to do, only 90 days. And these are the Republicans that's doing this. So they cared less. And this big, beautiful bill they talk about, they have watered it down so much it means nothing. Yes, I do believe if you're on Medicaid, and that's different than Medicare, but if you're on Medicaid and are very capable of working, even if it's 10 hours a week, you should be out doing that. Here's what happens with that, even though it's political, but it's not political. Families, and I've seen it myself, families get in the mindset from generation to generation that they have to be on Medicaid even though they can work. And I've seen it. And they're taking advantage of the system. It's there. People will take advantage of it. But politics in general can be devastating, and it can help us in a lot of ways too. But an overreach is what we're getting into right now on both sides. We can control the budget if we wanted to, but we won't. There's too much waste out there. And that's another thing. Elon went out there and has found a lot of things that were bad. Then the left is out there hollering about it. They say we have all this money out here. We need to stop the waste and spending. They use words. When it was physically brought out and stopping it, then the same people that were using them words were the ones hollering, we can't do that. They use things for political reasons. Both sides do it. Just like some of the top money takers for pharmacies out there and others, it's just not that. The money that's taken in by different organizations makes you wonder exactly what's going on. Well, I don't wonder. Dollars seem to talk. And that's exactly what's been happening. Our political landscape does need to change and get better. Whether you're left or right or in the middle, we got to get down to the path of everybody sticking together to get something accomplished. You got people like AOC, where'd she get them all millions of dollars, and she couldn't even, 6 years ago, she couldn't even afford to rent in DC. And all of a sudden, 6 years later, she has millions of dollars. Let's do the math. How much does she make a year? In 6 years, if she spent nothing, she still got more money. If everybody give her everything to live there, and she did not have to take anything out of her paycheck, you know what? She's millions of dollars don't add up. It really don't. And it's just not her. It's others do the exact same thing. When Mitt was in office, he took in quite a bit of money with different things, different organizations, and that's just it. You can make 100 laws on politics to curb something, but they're going to make sure there is a loophole in there that the American people don't see, that they can go backdoor and come out on the other side again. So nothing really changes. In Idaho, where I'm at, laws have been put in effect that make it look really, really good on taxes, but then they backdoor it and you really don't save anything. These are just examples of politics and what politics is doing. We have to get back into the mindset. We need the politicians to make things work. We don't need a bunch of money handlers trying to tell us what to do with our money. And you know, the government actually don't have any money. They are broke. They use our money. That's what runs the government. And when they get in office, and it don't matter what side it is, they will think it's their money and they're going to do what they want because it's their money, not yours. But they want you to give them money. That way it's their money and not yours. That's not a true statement in reality, but in their minds, that's how it works. Wouldn't it be fun if everybody just got together and said no, no again? You know, let's talk about taxes for a minute. You know, our country never, when we first started, and I know there was a lot less people, they didn't have taxes. They had other things, tariffs and all that. And that's another thing, tariffs. Is it working? Yeah, it is working. Everybody says, well, he's caving in, he's caving in. Is he really caving in? Who's there trying to make deals? Who's calling who to make deals? So it actually is working. But if you're on the left, you're not going to admit that, because that means he was right, and you cannot go out there and admit he did the right thing. You've got companies moving in here. You have other countries wanting to negotiate that their tariffs ain't as high because they know the end result is if they can't get their goods into here, they've got to do something different, because Americans will start buying American products. Competition is good, but you're forcing Americans to buy American products. If tariffs are really high and they don't want to pay them, well, so be it. We have Canada, and I have nothing against Canada, by the way, but the gas thing, pushing their gas prices up, if this threatening to, they didn't, but threatened to. Well, if we had our gas supplies up and running like we should have, or would have, it wouldn't matter. They could threaten all they wanted. If our regulations weren't as bad for lumber, we wouldn't have to rely upon them as much for lumber. And all these things are common sense stuff. The only problem is you got people in Congress and the Senate that are willing to sacrifice what's better for you for their own pockets. Just look around what's going on. I just wanted to get this out and, you know, a general view of politics. It wasn't left or right, wasn't meant to be left or right. It's just an observation of what is going on out there. That's like, you know, if you have a budget and you pass a budget, you're taking away the politics in the election if you pass the budget, because you're taking away a talking point of people running for office. So that's one reason they don't want to do a budget. The other reason is you do have people putting extra money in people's pockets, and that don't help either. We need to get back to a better system. I have nothing against our president. I think he's done a pretty good job overall. Could it be better? Oh, yeah. Could Biden's administration been better? Oh, definitely better. But it wasn't. And the checks and balance should never have been put on the judges. What they are doing to me is wrong. They're judge shopping in districts that has nothing to do with a lot of this stuff, because they know liberal judges will help them out, and they're willing to go find them judges to make stupid and bogus decisions. And part of that's just the way it is, but the American people could put a stop to it if they wanted to, because they're politicizing the judicial system, which is bad, which should not happen. I hope I don't offend anybody. If I did, I did, but this is just an overall view. And I appreciate every one of you. No, I ain't out here to make a lot of money. Look at my channel. I'm not monetized. Most of my stuff comes from my shorts, my viewers and subscribers. It don't come from here. Which means to be monetized, it'd take a whole lot. And I don't think I'm there on hours. I haven't looked for a while, but when I reach that point, then I got to decide what I want to do. But that's in the future, and I'm really not even thinking about that. So don't come on here and say this is to get a bunch of money or clicks or views. This is solely an old man putting out his points of view. It has nothing to do with anything else. I'm trying to look at things not as left or right, but what is actually going on. And sometimes we need to do that. Just stop and look at everything that is going on and take it from there. Because if we don't, we're going to be in trouble in the long run. Yes, we're all going to be left or right or in the middle, but you're going to lean one way or the other. But at some point, even on the side that you're on, you need to call them out when they're in the wrong. And the problem with the people on the left, a lot of them, and I'm not talking about the people voting out here, I'm talking about the people in office. Their leadership's like a bunch of sheep, and this does happen. You put bells on sheep, and when they go out in the mountains or by the mountains, or when they hear that bell, that if that sheep with the bell on goes off the cliff, the others will follow without rhyme or reason, because their leader jumped off the cliff and they are too, and they will not question it. The politicians on the left are exactly that way. The ones on the right aren't that far behind either. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I thank you for listening, and thank all of you. Hope you have a great weekend.